discover the incredible bond that transformed a millionaire's daughter and changed lives forever. In a shimmering mansion that reflected the brilliant hues of the twilight sky, 23-year-old Sarah Torin stood before her gilded mirror, the weight of her privilege resting heavily on her shoulders. Surrounded by immaculate decor, she felt suffocated by the expectations of her wealthy family, her father's tech empire looming like a giant shadow over her. Beyond the luxurious facade, her heart yearned for something more meaningful than the hollow laughter echoing through her glamorous social circle, where friends thrived on comparisons and superficiality. It seemed the more they had, the worse the emptiness felt. One evening, Sarah's world tilted on its axis when her school mandated community service. With a sense of reluctance, she ended up at a local shelter, a modest building nestled amidst the opulence of Oak Brook. Here, the noise of bustling volunteers filled the air, their earnest conversations granting permission to be human amid a thriving sea of need. That's where she met Alex, a rugged single father tirelessly working to create a better life for his spirited 7-year-old daughter, Lily. Their first encounter was electric. Sarah watched Alex kneel beside Lily, his brow furrowed, yet there was tenderness in his voice as he listened to her dreams of becoming an astronaut. Sarah felt a pang in her chest, the stark contrast between their lives slashing through her illusions. In this moment, amid laughter and fleeting joy, she witnessed sacrifice and dedication write a beautiful narrative of survival that spice no number of zeros could replicate. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah found herself drawn to their world. She listened intently to Alex's tales, the struggles of making ends meet, the constant grind for stability. Every story chipped away at the barriers she built around her heart, and each laugh from little Lily filled her with warmth she hadn't known she craved. Yet beneath this budding friendship, tensions brewed. Her parents dismissed Alex as a mere project designed to give Sarah character, their voices dripping with disdain. But Sarah's heart pulsed louder, clinging to the truth she was discovering. Then came the news that tore through the community like a storm. A factory closure threatened to erase Alex's job, leaving him and many families in a desperate strait. The suffocating privilege of her upbringing collided with the visceral reality laid bare before her. Would she let it all slide away, allowing her privilege to shield her from the truths of the world around her? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the charity gala approached, Sarah stood at the crossroads of her life. With the clock ticking down to that pivotal night, she felt the gravity of her choice. Would she use her family's influence to advocate for Alex's community and stand for what was right, or be swallowed by the vacuum of loyalty expected within her elite circles? An irrefutable force tugged at her heart, igniting a fierce passion she never knew existed. Would she become the voice of the voiceless? The question echoed in her mind like a siren call. Could their unlikely bond truly reshape lives and birth hope in a world she once saw through gilded lenses? The night of the charity gala arrived, cloaked in a shimmering elegance that felt like a masquerade. The grand ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers, illuminating the refined faces of Sarah's world, the privileged elite, dressed in designer gowns and sharp tuxedos. As laughter filled the air, Sarah found herself standing on the periphery, lost in the intricate dance of opulence and isolation. The sight of her father, his chest puffed with pride as he greeted guests, filled her with a sense of dread. She was supposed to be part of this polished veneer, to contribute to the facade that her family had carefully constructed. But deep within, her heart thumped for a different cause, a cause that went beyond display and social standing. It yearned to burst forth, demanding to be seen and heard. Sarah's mind flickered back to Alex and Lily, their struggles, their hopes, and the stark reality that had ignited something within her. A fleeting image of little Lily, eyes wide with wonder, flashed through her thoughts. She couldn't bear the weight of her family's expectations any longer. The thrill of standing at the forefront of powerful change called to her louder than any chorus of praise that surrounded her now. As the program began, with the pledge to raise funds shimmering on the screen, Sarah's resolve solidified. She had to speak. With determination coursing through her veins, she took a deep breath and slipped away from the crowd. Every step felt monumental, carrying her closer to the truth she wanted to voice. Finding a quiet alcove momentarily relieved her of the overwhelming energy of the gala, but it also left her alone with her thoughts. What if no one listened? What if she lost everything her family had built? But then, in the echoes of her uncertainty, she thought of Alex's worn hands, the warmth in his eyes, and incredible love he had for Lily, like a wall that withstood any storm. It inspired her to raise her own walls, to build bridges rather than divisions. Her mind was made up. The gala attendees were restless as Sarah took the stage, a trace of panic rippling through her. But she held on to her purpose. To her surprise, it was easier than she had thought to speak from her heart, instead of the rehearsed lines of wealth and privilege. Tonight, she began, her voice shaking yet powerful. I'm not here just as Sarah Torin, daughter of wealthy parents. I'm here as someone who believes in the strength of community and the families that are at risk tonight. The ballroom quieted, tension hanging in the air. I've seen firsthand the struggles that many face. My friend Alex, a dedicated father, is fighting not just for a job, but for his daughter's future. Lives are on the line, and tonight we can make a choice. A choice not to turn a blind eye, but to extend a hand. Gasps of surprise rippled across the room. This was not what they expected. As she continued, her words flowed like a cascading river, filling the empty spaces of apathy around her. She saw familiar faces flicker with discomfort, yet others began to nod in understanding. In that charged moment, Sarah glanced toward the back of the room, where her father stood, watching. His expression was unreadable, perhaps a mixture of pride and shock, unable to comprehend the shift unfolding before him. Would this one speech be enough to challenge an entire elite circle? Could her voice truly mobilize the support Alex and his community desperately needed? She paused, feeling the rush of fear mingle with exhilaration. Will you join me in making a difference? She implored. The echo of her plea resonated, the uncertainty sparking a new hope. Behind her, whispers spread as the guests exchanged glances, the weight of her words hanging heavy. Little did she know, this moment would precipitate a clash of loyalties that could change everything, the lines between privilege and responsibility blurring like the twilight outside. What would happen next? Would the gathering rally behind her call for action, or would it push her further away from the life she had known? As she looked back at her father, one question remained unanswered in her heart. What price would she pay for authenticity? The silence that enveloped the ballroom felt like a live wire, crackling with the potential energy of something monumental about to unfold. Sarah's heart raced. Would they respond? Would they embrace her plea? As she stood on stage, she could see the stirrings of movement in the crowd. Some attendees shifted uncomfortably, their pearls clutched tightly, while others leaned in, intrigued by the rawness of her words. Her father's face loomed large in her mind, and she wondered, would he be proud or furious? Would he see her passion as a betrayal of all he had built for them? The thought sent jitters rippling through her. She swallowed hard but pressed on. I know these problems seem distant to many of you, she continued, her voice gaining strength. But they are not distant for those like Alex and Lily. They are real. They are urgent. The room felt alive with tension, a tightrope stretched between disbelief and sympathy. Every second hung like an eternity. Somewhere in the middle of the crowd, Sarah saw Mrs. Thornton, a long-established matriarch of the social circle, shake her head, an expression of disapproval etched on her face. But beside her, a younger woman, perhaps in her late 20s, leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with interest. It was a glimmer of hope, a sign that not everyone was resolute in their indifference. Imagine, Sarah went on, ignited by the flicker of support, imagine what we could all do together. What if we redirected just a fraction of our privilege? Because right now, that little girl's life depends on us opening our hearts and our wallets. Whispers erupted among the guests. Some nodded subtly, while others scoffed, struggling to reconcile their privilege with her call to action. The dance of emotions played vividly across their faces: denial, anger, support, and curiosity, all swirling in a complex tapestry. Just as she thought hope was wavering, a strong voice rose from the back. "What do we do?" It was Alex, standing tense and determined, with a few friends rallying behind him. Their support filled Sarah's chest with warmth. "Tell us how we can help." His words propelled her. She saw the fabric of the moment shift, and desperation became possibility. "We can start a fund resources for job training, assistance for families like Alex's. We can provide healthcare support." She could hardly believe how quickly the momentum was building. Around her, hands raised, and voices joined in fervor. Conversations fired up like the crackling of a campfire, ideas bouncing across the room. With each passing moment, the sense of something vibrant and transformative swirled in the air, wrapping around the attendees like a warm embrace. Her father stepped forward, his presence an imposing figure. The room fell silent again, the weight of his being shone through as he took a deep breath. What would he say? She prepared for the worst, her heart thumping loudly in her chest. "Sarah," he began, his voice steady but with an undercurrent of hesitation. "You've chosen to speak, and I won't silence you." But before the words could blossom fully into a challenge or a concession, a loud crash interrupted him. A waiter had tripped, sending glasses clattering to the floor, and laughter erupted. The tension shattered, and within that chaos, Sarah felt her chance slip away, the focus pulled from her. Once again, all eyes turned to her. But this time, she felt the heating of judgment alongside the flicker of hope. She had opened a door, and now it felt like it might close before she had the chance to walk through it. As conversations resumed with fervor and energy filled the room, Sarah struggled to maintain her voice in the whirlwind. It was a tough tightrope walk, balancing on the thin line between fear and courage. Would her father support her vision, or would he choose to defend their social standing? With uncertainty creeping back in, she wondered, was this fight worth losing everything for, or was it the path to a change deeper than she ever imagined? She felt the weight of their eyes, the spark of potential flickering in the air. Tonight was going to define more than just a gala. It would define who she was. "Please don't let this moment pass," she called out, desperation creeping into her voice. But how could she hold on to that hope? Would the guests rally around her after this cacophony of uncertainty, or would they vanish back into their worlds of wealth? As she searched the crowd, desperate for assurance, one truth became glaringly evident: this was only the beginning. Where would her journey lead her from here? Would her voice ring out and resonate, or would it fade away in the clamor of old habits? Sarah held her breath, watching the crowd ebb and flow, the hope flickering like candlelight on the brink of being snuffed out. Her heart beat like a drum, loud and insistent. Would they act? Would they join her in this fight? It felt like the world had paused as she searched for any sign of encouragement, but found only uncertainty painted across familiar faces. Suddenly, the younger woman Sarah had noticed earlier spoke up, her voice cutting through the noise like a clear bell. "I'll help. I can organize a fundraiser. There's a lot we can do together." The sincerity in her tone ignited something within Sarah. "Really?" Sarah's voice trembled with a mix of disbelief and gratitude. "You would do that?" With a firm nod, the woman stood taller, drawing attention. "We can't just sit back and watch while others suffer. Let us mobilize." More voices joined in now. Ideas cascaded: a clothing drive, a community dinner, mentorship programs. Each suggestion wove a tapestry of action, a united front against indifference. Sarah felt invincible, her worries melting away as she reveled in the excitement. Her father, still standing at the center of the room, watched with a mix of surprise and trepidation. This wasn't how he envisioned the evening. Her rebellion was undeniable, and yet, something deep within him stirred. Would he step in to silence her? Instead, he remained quiet, processing, as the tide began shifting around him. The laughter faded and turned into focused discussions. She could see it, the gears of compassion beginning to turn among her peers. Boldness shifted the atmosphere, lightening the heaviness once draped over the room. The elder matriarch, Mrs. Thornton, who had originally displayed her disapproval, surprisingly dropped her arms, her stance softening as she spoke. "Perhaps it's time we let our wealth serve a greater purpose." Her voice trembled with tentative acceptance. Heads began nodding, a wave of solidarity rising. Sarah felt a rush of warmth wash over her. They were moving. They were shifting. The gala had transformed from a mere social gathering into a brainstorming session for change. Each person in that room had power. Together, they could channel that power into something greater than themselves. But as excitement bubbled, she caught sight of her father again. His expression was unreadable, his eyes flickering between pride and concern. "What about the foundation?" he finally asked, his voice steady yet uncertain, as if he was grappling with the loss of their familiar way of life. "Your mother and I have worked our entire lives for that legacy. Dad," she implored, her voice softening as she stepped toward him. "We can build our legacy in a different way. We can do something that matters more than social prestige." A silence fell, heavier than a storm cloud. The crowd paused, their energy caught in the crosswind. Would he embrace her vision or fight to keep things as they were? And then, before he could respond, a man from the back shouted, "No celebrity workshops. Real help." Laughter erupted again, breaking the tension. But it was a serious point wearing a humorous mask. The laughter connected them all, rebuilding the bond between the guests. Sarah could feel the energy surge, the laughter rolling through the room like thunder, exalted enthusiasm filling the space. But doubt clawed again at Sarah's gut, her gaze darting back to her father. Would her plea truly ring in his heart? Or would it rattle the foundations of their world apart? "Let us put our heads together," Sarah called out, her voice rising in urgency. "We're all in this together. We have the power to change lives." She could feel the fervor around her hands reaching, ideas flying, connections strengthening. There would be no turning back, but what if they didn't grasp this moment? What if the urgency of the night faded, the call to action waned? Could the colors of hope start to dull? And as the room buzzed with renewed commitment, the shimmering possibility of change sparked brightly. Yet the question loomed, could her heart handle the weight of these convictions? Could she break away from her father's shadow and embrace the depth of her own vision? The moment of truth was approaching, and she felt dizzy with exhilaration and fear. What lay ahead was an unknown path peppered with obstacles. But one thing was clear: Sarah was ready to step into that light, even if it meant stepping away from everything she'd ever known. The hum in the room grew louder as enthusiasm took center stage. Ideas were flowing faster, tangible and bright against the earlier shadows of doubt. Sarah's heart raced, a rhythm matching the flickering flame of hope ignited among her friends and family. Each new proposal lifted the atmosphere like a balloon caught in a draft, and she felt lighter, more determined than ever. "Let us create a scholarship program," suggested Eric, a local teacher, leaning forward with a spark in his eye. "We can sponsor underprivileged students, a chance for them to thrive." "Absolutely." Sarah jumped in, encouragement spilling from her. "Imagine the lives we could touch, Eric." The excitement in her voice poured warmth over the entire room. More hands shot up, each person eager to offer their skills. Ideas intertwined, weaving camaraderie and commitment. The crowd now felt electric, buzzing with purpose. Sarah wanted to capture this moment, cement it in her mind forever, but then, her gaze caught her father again. His expression remained a stormy mix of questions and concern. The facade of calm was beginning to crack. This isn't what I wanted for you," he said slowly, his voice gravelly yet cautious. "People coming together is great, but we must be careful. There's a process, Sarah. Dad, change starts here, right in this room." Sarah insisted, her voice trembling but resolute. "This is about more than just following old traditions. It's about finding ways to create real change. I need your support." A brief silence hung in the air, thick with tension. The weight of expectations loomed large over them both. Would he criticize her ambitions? Would he dismiss them as folly? His eyes softened, a flicker of understanding breaking through. "I understand you want to make a difference." "I do, but what if it backfires? What if you get hurt?" His tone was tender, revealing the depths of his worry. In that split second, a cacophony erupted around them: laughter, cheers, and voices raised in passion. It was as if the world else had faded. The room was full of energy, a symphony of dreams and determination. "Look at them, Dad. They believe in this," Sarah urged, gesturing passionately to the crowd. But she could feel the tension between them. A fracture was forming, a rift rooted in fear and ambition. "Maybe they believe you can do it," he said slowly, the doubt still lodged in his words. "But can you really handle the responsibility?" This isn't just a whim. Her heartbeat surged, propelled by pure emotion. With your help, I can. It's time to stop hiding behind our legacy. Each word hung heavy with significance, echoing off the walls and igniting determination within her heart. Then came the pivotal moment. A hand reached up from the back of the room, steady and resolute. It belonged to Mrs. Thornton again. We stand with her. Change is never easy, but it's needed. Her voice, though frail, pierced through the air, galvanizing support. Heads nodded in agreement, applause erupted, and the solidarity was palpable. It was a collective promise, a fragile thread binding together the hopes of many. Sarah beamed, the swell of emotion pushing against her chest. This was the moment she had fought for. But as the enthusiasm grew, a new spark of fear flickered within her. What if this wasn't just a spark, but a fire that could consume everything around her? Would she truly risk everything for this new potential? Together, we can build something greater. Sarah called, her heart conflicted yet soaring. And as the voices rose around her, she felt the thrill of empowerment mixed with the uncertainty of sacrifice. Could she navigate these uncharted waters of change? The battle for her vision was only beginning. With uncertainty clinging tightly, she stepped forward, ready to challenge the foundations that had defined her for so long. But what lay before her was still a mystery, and the only guarantee was that the path ahead would demand everything she had. The room pulsed with energy, but the weight of Sarah's father's words lingered like a fog. She could feel every eye on her, every heartbeat echoing her own. All the hope, all the encouragement. Would it slip away if she hesitated? I won't let you down, she whispered fiercely, but it was mostly to herself. The swirling voices dispersed, telling her that the time had come to act. Sarah took a deep breath and raised her hands, quieting the room. The chatter softened, the room became still. For a moment, she felt the gravity of leadership settle in her chest, pressing down, but she refused to flinch. Before we dive into the logistics of this scholarship program, I want to hear your stories. She scanned the faces around her friends, mentors, even strangers who had joined the meeting. Why does this matter to you? What change do you want to see? A young woman in the front row stood up, her voice a blend of nerves and determination. I grew up in a town where opportunities felt out of reach. College was just a dream. If I had a scholarship, maybe I could inspire others. Change is in our hands. The room erupted in applause, a wave of support crashing over them all. You can feel that hope, can't you? Sarah replied, her heart racing with each new voice that added to the chorus of dreams. We can make those dreams a reality. Another hand shot up. This time it was Mark, a local business owner. I was lucky enough to have support when I needed it the most. Giving back is my way of ensuring that no one else gets left behind. With every sharing, the fog enveloping her father's doubt began to dissipate. That warmth she felt earlier returned, swirling around her like a protective embrace. As voices filled the room, expressing hopes, fears, and resolved intentions, Sarah's spirit soared. Ideas transformed into plans, and plans breathed life into possibilities. But in the corner of her mind, the cautionary voice of her father remained a reminder of the stakes involved. Each story here matters, she said, reclaiming the spotlight. If we combine our resources, we can help not just individuals, but our entire community. Let's create an inclusive scholarship that reflects the diverse strengths around us. A murmur of excitement rippled through the crowd. Together, they began drafting the program's framework, pooling their skills and enthusiasm. Each suggestion built upon the last, creating a tapestry of opportunity and hope. Then, Sarah noticed the grim expression returning to her father's face. She caught his gaze, and in that moment, his skepticism began to transmute into contemplation. Perhaps he was starting to see what she saw: the potential for transformation, the spark of change lighting the darkness. But she couldn't shake her anxiety. What would happen if they failed? Would all their dreams shatter like glass? Suddenly, a voice in the back called, "Sarah, you can do this. We believe in you." It pulled her from her thoughts. Encouragement washed over her like a tidal wave. She could feel her heart pounding fiercely in her chest, an exhilarating mix of fear and hope. "Let us finish this plan." Sarah rallied, eyes sparkling with determination, ready to nurture the fire they had kindled. "We're not just asking for change, we're bringing it to life." But as the plans took shape, A chilling realization crept through her veins. Was she truly prepared for the consequences of her ambition? As they set to work, eager and inspired, Sarah knew one thing for certain. They were on the brink of something monumental. Would she be able to balance her father's fears with the hopes of everyone else, and perhaps even her own? With these worries tucked away for later, the room buzzed with purpose. Yet, in the back of her mind, one haunting question remained. What if everything they built crumbled under the weight of their dreams? The journey felt more real than ever, and all she could do was hold her breath, stepping further into the unknown. The energy in the room shifted, sparking a fire that Sarah could hardly believe. Ideas flew, bouncing from person to person, each word building upon the last. A palpable excitement filled the air, and Sarah felt her chest lift with the collective energy. They were all in this together. "Let us break into smaller groups," she suggested, her voice steady but vibrant. "We can discuss various aspects of the scholarship, from eligibility to mentorship. The more ideas we have, the stronger our foundation will be." People began to gather in clusters, animated discussions erupting like fireworks. Sarah drifted between groups, listening and taking notes. Each conversation reignited her passion, her determination solidifying with every new perspective. In one corner, she overheard a couple of young students brainstorming ways to reach out to local businesses for partnerships. "If we can get even a few scholarships funded, it could turn the tide for so many," one of them said, eyes shining with hope. Sarah's heart swelled as she witnessed the sparks of creativity and ambition. This wasn't just about money. It was about building a community, a future. But as the hours went on, doubts began to creep back in. What if their hard work wasn't enough? Would the community support them? Would they be able to deliver on their promises? She felt a hand on her shoulder. Turning, she found Mark looking at her, his expression kind yet knowing. "You good?" he asked, as if sensing the storm brewing inside. "I am," she replied, though a hint of uncertainty crept into her voice. "It's just, everything seems so big, and what if we can't pull it off?" Mark shook his head, a reassuring smile breaking across his face. "You've already done so much. People are inspired by you. Just remember why you started this. That passion will take you further than any plan ever could." His words echoed in her mind. She took a deep breath, her heart steadying. This was about more than just her, it was about all of them. Suddenly, the stakes felt lighter as the groups began regrouping to share their ideas. The room buzzed with enthusiasm. "We've got potential mentors ready to step in," one voice called out. "And we have a plan for outreach that includes everyone." With every shared idea, the momentum increased, pushing Sarah a bit closer to the edge of her own fears. She realized that the thoughts which once felt suffocating were now pieces of a larger puzzle, one that would take shape with time, hope, and hard work. "And what about our vision?" Sarah interjected, recalling the initial spark that had ignited this journey. "We should have a unified mission statement, something we can all rally behind." "Rolling with what we have sounds great, but I suggest we draft that mission together," Mark suggested. In that moment, Sarah felt a bond form between all of them, strong and unyielding as they shared their hopes and dreams. They had become a united front, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Just as they began to craft the centerpiece of their mission, the door swung open, and the chatter slowed to a hush. A figure stepped inside, slipping quietly into the space. It was Clara, a powerful advocate for education in the community, whose reputation preceded her. "Hello, everyone," she began, her voice smooth and commanding. "I've heard about your initiative and came to offer support and insights." Everyone leaned in, an electric tension charging the room. Sarah felt her knees shake as a wave of excitement and trepidation surged within her. Would Clara's help solidify their project or expose them to even greater scrutiny? The atmosphere thrummed with possibilities, and all Sarah could think was that life was about to change. But was she ready for the storm this meeting might unleash? A single question hovered uncomfortably. What costs would come along with their success? Clara's presence brought a weight that filled the room with both anticipation and fear. Sarah's thoughts raced. She had admired Clara from a distance. Her speeches about education reform and empowerment had always resonated deeply. Now, the powerful woman stood before them, and Sarah felt her heart rhythm falter. Clara's gaze swept over the group, taking in their youthful energy, a hint of admiration creeping into her eyes. "Your initiative," she said, her voice steady, "could be a game-changer for many students. But let us not fool ourselves. This will take a lot of work and dedication. Are you all prepared for that?" "Yes," came a chorus of voices, the passion in each declaration igniting the room once more. Sarah could feel the adrenaline rush through her veins. She leaned into it, catching Clara's eye as she reached for the nearest whiteboard. "I'd like to hear your ideas," Clara continued, "but I also want to understand your mission. What drives you?" The room became a whirl of voices, everyone chiming in with snippets of their visions. Someone spoke about fairness in education, another shared a personal story of struggle and sacrifice, and one young man passionately described what it felt like to overcome the odds. Sarah listened intently, her heart swelling. It was a beautiful tapestry of dreams, each voice a reminder of why they were gathered there. Yet she couldn't shake the lump forming in her throat. This was becoming real, and with reality came the specter of failure. The thought made her stomach churn. "Sarah," Clara's voice cut through the clamor, snapping her back to attention. "What do you envision?" With a deep breath, Sarah stood, her hands trembling slightly. She found those around her looking expectantly. "I want to create a scholarship fund that empowers the next generation of leaders," she began, her voice gaining strength with each word. "We need to ensure every student, regardless of background, has access to opportunities that can shape their futures. Mentoring, internships, funding, it's all crucial." Clara smiled, and a sense of relief washed over Sarah, mingling with a sense of urgency. "That's a powerful vision. But do you believe people will back this?" "It's a big ask," Clara pressed, her voice lowering. "A few of us have begun reaching out to local businesses," someone from the back added, pride evident in their tone. "We think there is potential for grants and partnerships." Sarah nodded, encouraged. "If we can show them the impact this will have, I believe they will want to be a part of it." Clara's brow lifted slightly, a sign of approval. "You need to make them feel it, make them see the lives they can touch. People connect with stories." At that moment, Sarah realized she needed to do that as well. She needed to share her own story, the one that fueled her passion for this cause, about growing up feeling less than enough, about wanting to be more than just a statistic. But there were still so many fears spinning through her mind. What if sharing made her vulnerable? What if it didn't resonate? Before she could voice her thoughts, Clara continued, "Let us schedule some workshops together. We'll shape your story into something that can truly resonate with the community." Their eyes sparkled with enthusiasm as the room erupted into conversation again. But Sarah felt a weight in her chest. That familiar doubt clawed its way back, reminding her of the risks. Would baring her soul help the cause or jeopardize their chance at success? She knew this was her moment, her chance to leap. But she stood frozen, torn between fear and resolve. As ideas swirled around her, Sarah's heart thudded loudly in her ears. What if the truth she shared wasn't enough? Would the community embrace her or recoil? She felt the weight of many eyes upon her, as if they expected her to lead them into uncharted territory. In the midst of this whirlwind of emotion, a chilling thought crept in. What if, in her quest to change the lives of others, she lost her own? The conversation in the room reached a crescendo, but Sarah felt disconnected, ensnared in her thoughts. Just then, Clara leaned in closer, her eyes piercing through the bubbling chatter. "This is your moment to rise, Sarah. Don't shy away from it." Would she step into the spotlight, or would she let this opportunity slip away? A new storm was brewing within her, and Sarah knew the answer was just one leap of faith away. But was she ready to take that leap? The room rumbled with excitement, but Sarah felt as if a heavy fog had descended over her thoughts. Clara's words echoed in her head, urging her to step out of her own shadows. The faces around her were eager and shining with hope, yet there she stood, on the precipice of sharing herself. Her heart raced, pounding like a drum, drowning out the vibrant energy of the gathering. Clara noticed her hesitation. "Sarah," she said, her voice gentle yet firm, "you have something important to share. Don't think of it as vulnerability, but as strength." The sincerity in Clara's eyes pierced through Sarah's mounting anxiety. Taking a deep breath, Sarah let the air fill her lungs, fueling her courage. Perhaps it was time to reveal the deeper layers of her story. As she opened her mouth to speak, the room fell into a hush, and she felt every gaze fixed on her. I grew up in a tiny apartment. She began, her voice shaking but gaining confidence with each word. My parents worked multiple jobs just to keep food on the table. I remember moments of doubt, wondering if I would ever be enough, if I could break the cycle. The atmosphere shifted as her peers leaned in, listening intently. Sarah could see empathy in their eyes, uniting them all in their shared struggles. I was lucky, she continued, to have mentors who believed in me. Just one person can change everything for someone who feels lost. She paused, letting her words sink in. That's why I'm here. I want to be that person for others. I want every student to feel seen, to know that they can rise up, just like I did. As she finished, the warmth of collective support enveloped her. A few people clapped softly at first, and then the room erupted into cheers. The thrill of connection surged within Sarah, melting her fears into resolve. Clara looked overwhelmingly pleased, a proud smile stretching across her face. The belief in her mission was becoming tangible, and that spark lit a fire in her soul. But as her adrenaline surged, a quiet voice in the back of her mind reminded her of the challenges that lay ahead. What if her efforts fell flat? What if their community didn't resonate with her story? The stakes felt monumental, and for a moment, the spark of triumph dimmed against the looming uncertainty. Clara clapped her hands, calling everyone back to focus. All right, let us channel this energy into our workshops. We'll refine our narratives, find ways to connect with potential supporters. Together, we can make this happen. A wave of enthusiasm swept through the group. Plans were being made, ideas tossed around like confetti. Sarah was swept up in a storm of innovation, but the gnawing worry refused to fade. Even if we succeed, she thought, what if I'm not ready for the spotlight? What if I can't carry the weight of their hopes? The idea of leading was both exhilarating and terrifying. In that moment of fear, Clara approached her. Remember, you don't have to do this alone, she whispered. Let your team be your anchor. Trust in them like they trust in you. Her words were like a lifeline, and with that, Sarah realized the truth. This journey was not only about her. It was about the collective. Everyone's fears and dreams intertwined. As discussions erupted around her, Sarah caught Clara's gaze again. They shared a moment of silent understanding. They were both in this together, ready to challenge the odds. Just as Sarah was beginning to believe they could make a difference, a ringing phone interrupted the excitement. Clara answered, and her expression shifted from excitement to concern. She stepped away, speaking in hushed tones. The room buzzed with speculation. What could it be? Suspicion gripped Sarah. Her heart thrummed like it had moments ago. Would this be another challenge they hadn't prepared for? The phone call could change everything, and Sarah felt a ripple of anxiety move through the group. A knot tightened in her chest. What if this twist meant their dreams were about to come crashing down? As Clara turned back toward them, her expression serious but resolute, the question hung heavy in the air. What news awaited them, and would it derail their plans or ignite a fire they hadn't imagined? The room fell silent, the energy that had surged moments ago shifting uneasily. Clara cleared her throat, her face a mixture of determination and concern. Everyone, she began, I just received news that the factory closure we had feared is now confirmed. The owners plan to finalize everything by the end of the week. Gasps echoed through the crowd. The thrill of hope that had enveloped them now faltered under the weight of harsh reality. Sarah's heart sank. She could feel the tension ripple through the room, fear replacing the excitement. But Clara continued, her voice strong despite the news. This is where we can step up. We've talked about supporting our community, and now it's time to put that into action. We can't just sit by and let this happen. At that moment, clarity pierced through Sarah's uncertainty. The very mission they had started was alive with urgency. This was their chance to drive real change, to take action when the world felt bleak. She stood tall, her resolve sharpening like a knife. That's right, Sarah exclaimed, the fire igniting within her once more. We can't just talk about change. We have to be that change. Now is the time to advocate for Alex and his family, and for everyone who will be affected. Around her, heads nodded, energy rising again like a wave. Conversations sparked across the room, voices rising in fervor. They weren't just planning anymore. They were galvanizing a cause that resonated deep within them all. Let us organize a rally, someone shouted, excitement bubbling over. We can gather the community, invite the media, and show our support. Yes, Sarah's heart raced at the idea. Let us make our voices heard. We'll engage everyone from parents to local businesses. We need to remind the owners of the factory that these are real lives affected. We won't just stand by. The room erupted into cheers and applause, the spirit of community enveloping them once again. Plans began to form rapidly, ideas flying around like sparks. Sarah could see the determination in her friends' faces, the fire that had been ignited. Each of us has a part to play, Clara said. We need to unify our efforts. Make sure everyone understands what's at stake. As they broke into smaller groups, Sarah felt an incredible surge of belief. Her father's earlier doubts, her own fears they didn't matter now. They were standing on the edge of something monumental, armed with the conviction that they could change lives. Suddenly, the weight on her shoulders felt lighter. She was not alone in this fight. The collective power of everyone willing to stand beside her filled her with strength. Let us create signs, message templates, and social media campaigns that share these stories, she suggested, her confidence flourishing. We need to amplify our voices. If we can rally enough support, maybe we can make a difference. With every stroke of collaboration, Sarah began to see the contours of hope emerge from the chaos. They were turning the tide, and each heartbeat echoed a chorus of determination. After hours of planning, the group gathered again. Clara turned to Sarah, her eyes gleaming with pride. You've inspired everyone here today, Sarah. You've found your strength, and now we will bring it to the forefront. A wave of warmth washed over her. The weight of expectations felt light as she beamed. With every campaign added, they indexed not only their hopes for Alex and his daughter, but for an entire community. But as the excitement bubbled over, Sarah looked around the room, taking in the faces that surrounded her, each one as invested and passionate as she was. And then, her gaze drifted to the door, where her father stood, arms crossed, brow furrowed. But this time, she didn't shy away. This wasn't just about her family legacy anymore. It was about standing up for others, for doing what was right. Clara caught her eye and whispered, "Are you ready? This is your moment." With everything on the line, the noise of passion surged around her, a catalyst for change more powerful than anything she'd ever felt. The cry of hope rang clear in her heart. This was her time, and no one could take that from her. "Let us go change our world," Sarah shouted, her voice ringing through the room once again, igniting a fire of purpose. And as they all surged toward the future, she knew, without a doubt, it was not just her fight anymore. It was theirs. Together they would mold their destinies, weaving a hopeful tapestry that would not just ripple, but roar through their community. This moment felt monumental. They were not just standing at the door of change, they were kicking it wide open. The room erupted in cheers, and Sarah could see it, hope flickering vibrantly, a promise brightening the horizon. They would march forward. They would be the change they wished to see. With hearts united, they stepped into the light of their vision, ready to inspire a movement as strong as the bonds they forged. Sarah took a deep breath, filled her lungs with every bit of energy, joy, and belief they had sparked, and there was no looking back. Now was the moment they'd all been waiting for, and it was time for the world to hear their voices. Do you feel that passion too? Do you want to witness change unfold? You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below how you felt about Sarah's journey and the power of community. And don't forget to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we will ignite change.